Hi everybody, so this is a video response to Zanoni Revived's video, What's Your Game Changer Games? Link is in the description for that. This is where I'm going to discuss what games altered where the bar was from my gaming experience. Games that when I played them essentially altered what my perception of a game could be. When I was going over this, I found it quite difficult to separate these game changers from my all top time games, so please bear that in mind when you're watching this. These aren't my all-time top favourite games, and I am trying to put a bit of separation between them. This is a list of what games changed what gaming is for me. Games that set the bar and became the barometer from which all future games would be judged against. So first of all, GoldenEye on the Nintendo 64, 1997. And so this is the first game I bought with my N64, and honestly it changed everything for me. Not just because it was like the first game and first console I bought with my own money down at BT's, and it cost me like 50 quid on top of the console's cost because BT's didn't believe in bundles, but it was probably the best 50 quid I would spend for decades. It was the first fully 3D shooter that I ever played. I'd played shooter games before, but they were always an imitation of an arcade cabinet. Usually they paled in comparison as well, but GoldenEye had realistic graphics. It had brand new features, it had a structured story and clear mission goals. It made you want to go back to explore the same levels over and over again. Not only that, it encouraged you to go back on higher difficulties and constantly try and improve your time, unlock cheats. So some of these new features, such as like when you shoot an enemy, they reacted to it in a realistic way. So you'd shoot someone in the leg and they'd go down clutching their leg. You'd shoot them in the chest and they'd reel backward and tumble backwards. And this is something I'd never experienced before in any sort of game. And coupled with the realistic graphics, it made you think that you were actually in Russia shooting these soldiers. The structured story, that was something completely new as well. Not only did it have actual missions with clear objectives, but it was a challenge to go back to each level and complete them at the higher difficulty levels, try the new objectives that unlocked on those higher difficulty levels. You know, the game would encourage you to go back and back just to kind of beat it so many times, earn the cheats, and this was something so new to me. Obviously I'd played shooters before, like I said, but it was mainly you'd be put in a map, you'd have to get from point A to point B, and as long as you didn't die, you were done. But GoldenEye, even from the very first level, it had clear, defined objectives that you had to do in order to complete that mission, and it was a game changer. GoldenEye set the bar for what a complete shooter would be, and it also set the bar for local multiplayer. GoldenEye had 4-way local multiplayer, which was a favourite of mine for years. It was a staple of our friendship group for so long that even in like the early to mid 2000s, you know, like when the Xbox and the PS2 were out, when sleeping over at a mate's house, we'd go to Blockbuster, we'd rent a movie, we'd get a pizza, and then we'd basically just be playing GoldenEye until our eyes bled. GoldenEye was a game changer, and there's no two ways about it. Zelda, Ocarina of Time, the Nintendo 64, 1998. Ocarina was the first game I played that had an actual explorable overworld that tied the game world all together. More so than Mario 64 and that castle, more so than, you can't really compare it to Golden Axe Warrior or the old Zeldas in that they obviously had an overworld that you'd explore and whatnot. Zelda's felt like a real world that you were a part of. Ocarina had whimsical characters, breathtaking music, and it also had gameplay which I'd never experienced before. Each new area, it continued to blow me away. It was put together really well, and for me it redefined what an adventure game could and should be. Never before had I got this sense of adventure, this sense that I'm just one person up against the odds, trying to be the hero that the world needs. Before this, games kind of tried to force that narrative upon you by making you read the manual, or they'd have an opening scroll when you first turned the game on. Zelda didn't. Zelda, it showed you that you had to be this hero. You had to rescue Zelda. You had to rescue Hyrule. You had to get rid of Ganon. It was unbelievable. Then you had the time switching mechanics. Actions you did as a kid affected the world when you were adult Link. It was just an incredible game, and it has to be in the game changer list. Counter-Strike, PC 2000. Right, so Counter-Strike, the first multiplayer game that really grabbed me. Every night after school, I'd rush to jump on our server and play CS all night. I genuinely blame CS for my poor GCSE results, but I had such a great time playing this game that I honestly don't care. The concept, the difficulty, the economic management, being in a clan, it was just formative for me. It was a multiplayer experience that nothing has come close to. Nothing has come close to those school nights playing CS with my mates. I was addicted. We were all addicted. It's been basically 20 odd years later and I'm still playing CS. It was the first game I ever designed maps for. It was the first game I ever got into clans and ladders, leaderboards, sorting out matches, all that stuff. It was the first time a game had ever really sunk its claws into me and became all-consuming. And I actually got pretty good at making maps back in the day with Hammer. We'd spend hours having a blast on my maps. We'd put them into the server, put them into the usual server rotation. We'd all have a good laugh. People would give me feedback. I'd go back and I'd fix the map up and I'd put the new version of the map on. It was such a great time of my life. Counter-Strike, you just can't beat it. Like, yes, obviously it looks like trash. It's a Half-Life mod, and Half-Life was a few years old by the time I got into CS. I think, what year was I in? I was in year 9, so that would have been like, what, 2003, 2004? But, fuck. Counter-Strike, it was the bee's knees. Unbelievable game. No online game, no shooter, nothing got near Counter-Strike for me. It changed everything. Grand Theft Auto 3, so another PC game. GTA 3 was revolutionary. There's no two ways about it. It was violent, it was funny, it was a full 3D sandbox where you could be the ultimate. The radio station alone would replace this game ridiculous, let alone everything else it had to offer. The game was a 3D action game. It was not outshining GTA 3. Nothing came. There was so much to do in Grand Theft Auto 3. You had all the mission lines, you had all the side quests.
Sorry, David, I'm an ambitious girl.
A fire truck and do those missions.
Small
you could
time.
go and commit gang warfare against like the triads downtown or the Italian mafia and all that sort of stuff. You could just sit in a car for hours listening to all the different radio stations. In fact, I took the MP3 files from the disc, the Laszlo radio talk station, and I put it on my MP3 player so I could listen to it all day.
Liberty City is in shock today as the police and emergency services deal with the aftermath of a devastating attack on a police convoy this morning. As yet, no details have been released about the prisoners being transferred in the convoy, and no group has claimed responsibility. The convoy left police headquarters early this morning for a routine transfer of felons to Liberty Penitentiary. The attack took place on the Callahan Bridge, leaving few witnesses.
Call of Duty on the PC 2003. Let me get this off the bat straight away. I do not like Call of Duty these days. There's a new one every year. It's fought by everyone on the planet, and it's the same generic crap with a new lick of paint. I'm talking about OG Call of Duty, the original. The game that put you right in the middle of World War II. It had huge set pieces, crazy rushes of adrenaline. Every minute of the campaign was action-packed. It redefined what an FPS game could be. Who doesn't remember the high-speed mission in France where you shoot from a jeep, or taking the bridge and holding it against harder and harder German counterattacks, bursting through the German lines in Stalingrad with a rifle and no bullets, straight out of enemy at the gates. Call of Duty, it left an impression on me when I played it. It's been nearly 18 years to the day since it came out, and I still can remember every bloody detail of that game. I can hear the ping of the Garand rifle reloading. I can feel the German stick grenades blowing up all around me. I can still feel my heart racing from holding Pavlov's house in Stalingrad. It was an unbelievable first-person experience. Every single player first-person shooter that came out ever since, even up to today, is basically trying to imitate the original Call of Duty. Crusader Kings 2, PC 2012, CK2, Jesus Christ. Nothing has changed my outlook on gaming in the last decade more than CK2. Looking at it, you're probably thinking, okay, so it's one of those super slow games with a terrible user interface and nothing really happens for a long time, then a message pops up and you need a history degree to actually enjoy the game, but no way. Come join me for a show and tell. Crusader Kings 2 is a simulation, it's an RPG, and it's a strategy game all wrapped together. So what's it simulating? The medieval world from Ireland to China, depending on what DLC you've bought. What roles are we playing in this RPG? Everyone. You can play as any count, duke, king, doge, emperor, whatever. Do you want to play as a count in Ireland, the Holy Roman Emperor, Caliph, a Hindu prince? Do you want to be Genghis Khan? Fine, do it. Strategy. How you progress in this game is entirely up to you. You can seduce your way. You can send a snake into your rival's bed to kill him at night. You can abduct his firstborn child and sacrifice him to the devil. Or you can invade him, capture all his family, and then keep them in the dungeons until they rot away. So how did it change what a game was to me? Unlike most other strategy games, you don't play as a nation. You are a dynasty, you're a family. When your current character dies, you move to that character's heir. This is the concept that throws most new players away, as it's just really different to any other strategy game or grand strategy that you've ever played. Normally in a strategy game you'd play as a nation, for example you'd play as England, but in CK2 you play as the man who happens to currently be the King of England. But when that character dies, you'll play as his heir, who could, depending on how you've played the previous character, be the next King of England. Or he could be a duke off in Germany, he could be a lowly count because your previous character, the King of England, died in a rebellion and some other character usurped his title as King of England, leaving your next or current character to have to slowly build power and eventually get your family's title back. CK2 had a lot of DLC, like a stupid amount of DLC, but each one added so much to the base game. New ways to rule, new types of government, devil worshipping cults, playing as Islamic rulers, playing in India, playing not in China, but it includes China as an off-map country, adds new start dates. You can play as a Jainist, a Buddhist, a Hindu, Christian, well, several different types of Christian, different types of Islamic, but like Shia and Shiite. Every single one changes the game in so many ways because it's all tied in to the simulating of every single character around you, because each one of them is simulated, each one of them has their own goals and desires, they've got their own personality traits. You could have in the neighbouring county to you an absolute psychotic person who is going around and he is abducting everyone's kids and sacrificing them to the devil. He is trying to get you into his devil worshipping cult, and if you say no, he might try and give you cancer because he's got devil worshipping powers and they can do that. It's absolutely bonkers. So up until I played CK2, I did not know that a strategy game could be all encompassing like this. The game is so deep, it's absolutely massive. As I said, it's an RPG wrapped up in a strategy game, wrapped up in a deep simulation of one of the most interesting parts of human history. No two playthroughs are the same, and it is the ultimate sandbox of adventure. Okay, and that was it for What Are My Game Changer Games. Thank you very much for watching it, and thank you again to Zanoni Revived for an interesting question. And I had a lot of fun coming up with the answers for this, thinking about, you know, what are the games that changed gaming for me, and made me look at what a game should be. Right, that's it. Thanks so much, guys. I'll see you.